So here are the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, in case you are not familiar with them. So very much embedded in the infrastructure of good corporate governance these days, mostly dealt with now at the CEO level of big organizations and companies. And it's something that I think all of us need to be reasonably familiar with in our day-to-day operations. And here we're really focusing on two of the goals, number 13 on climate action and number 7, affordable and clean energy. I think it's important to remember that the oil and gas still have very much a part to play as we look at energy demand going forward, with the International Energy Agency forecasting that by 2050, still about half of the world's energy supply is going to come from fossil fuels. And really the reason for this is that both China and India have very abundant access to cheap coal, and some sectors are likely to remain quite hard to decarbonize. Plus about 30% of oil demand is not actually combusted, it's used as feedstock for petrochemicals and plastic. But you can see that they're all really declining except for gas, which can act as a swing source when there's no wind or sun, which nuclear can't. So we actually changed the syllabus for the ADIT upstream oil and gas exam to reflect this energy transition, so that we now have carbon pricing in the syllabus, and the module has been renamed as energy resources. And it's likely that we'll make further changes as tax policies for renewables change internationally. So the UN Extractives, the UN Handbook on its selected issues for taxation of the extractive industries by developing countries, to give it its catchy title, is recommended reading for the new ADIT Energy Resources module. And I'm delighted to welcome here today two representatives from the UN in New York, Emily Muya, who's responsible for overall tax education, and Olivier Munyaneza, who's the secretary of the UN Extractives Tax Subcommittee that produced the handbook. And I'm also delighted to welcome two of the key contributors to the handbook. That's Anna Tews from Shell in The Hague and Chris Sanger from EY in London. And we're continuing to update the handbook. We keep it fresh. More updates are coming soon, and Olivier will say a bit more about that shortly. So just looking at the syllabus for ADIT, today we're going to cover 3 of the chapters in the handbook that we think are particularly relevant for the ADIT syllabus, which is shown here. Anne is going to cover the general aspects of the fiscal regime. That's the one at the bottom there. And then Chris is going to talk about decommissioning in the middle. And then I will talk about the restructuring features that you may be interested in. But first, let me hand you over to Olivier for a general introduction to the handbook and the UN Tax Subcommittee.